Welcome back to another episode of SNEED-CAST Industry Update, our series that keeps you updated with our ever-changing industry. For those of you that have been watching the series for a while now, you know how this goes, but for those of you that are new, welcome. We'll be covering the latest in manufacturing, packaging, coding, sustainability, and much more. I'm your host, Alexa, and today we'll discuss topics ranging from the economic ripple effects of Trump's proposed 50% steel tariffs to WhyHunger's 50-year fight against food insecurity, to the uncertain future of civil rights enforcement in the Sheetz discrimination case, and finally the fallout from a major federal immigration raid at an Omaha meatpacking plant. So, starting off. In a bold move on June 3rd of this year, President Trump announced a dramatic doubling of tariffs on steel and aluminum, hiking them from 25% to a staggering 50%, with notable exemptions from the UK. Framed as a crucial step to bolster domestic production and protect national security, Trump visited a U.S. steel plant in Pittsburgh to unveil the action. But the consequences ripple far beyond steel mills. Last year alone, the U.S. imported over 26 million metric tons of steel and 5.4 million tons of aluminum, with roughly 75 to 80% of tin-coated tin meal steel, essential for canned foods, sourced from imports. Industries like can manufacturing and food packaging are bracing for steep cost increases. The Can Manufacturers Institute warns this could translate to a 9 to 15% jump in canned food prices, forcing consumers to pay up to 30 cents more per can and risking up to 20,000 U.S. jobs in the sector. David Bieri, a Virginia tech economist, explains that this wave of new tariffs floods costs into everyday goods, from cars to kitchen appliances, ultimately landing on the consumer. Indeed, the impact is already visible. Cars could cost $400 to $3,000 more per vehicle. Appliances and household items from lawnmowers and washers will see upticks, sometimes adding thousands to big purchases. Housing isn't immune. The cost of nails and fasteners has surged, pushing estimates up to $10,900 extra per new home. Small and mid-sized manufacturers are especially vulnerable. The RSM U.S. Middle Market Business Index dropped nearly 19 points to 124.5, reflecting growing strain following the April and now June spikes in tariffs. Meanwhile, consumer prices rose modestly, 0.1% in May, keeping annual inflation at 2.4%, but core inflation and retail price increases suggest further upside pressure. Canada, Mexico, the EU, and others have issued warnings or threatened counter tariffs, citing potential supply chain disruptions and costs to consumers. In response, Trump praised the recent $20 billion investment by Nippon Steel in U.S. steel and noted a new golden share structure to ensure U.S. control. Economists say that the policy could have mixed effects. While U.S. steel workers may benefit in the short term, industries relying on metal-intensive supply chains will face higher costs, threatened jobs, and added uncertainty. And while past tariffs in 2018 created 1,000 steel jobs, they also triggered 75,000 losses elsewhere in manufacturing. In short, Trump's 50% tariff surge is reshaping industries well beyond metals. From the grocery aisles to the car showroom, its effects are profound and far-reaching. Moving on, marking a bittersweet milestone, WhyHunger celebrated its 50th anniversary in New York City on June 4th of this year, a moment that reflects both progress and persistent need. Founded in 1975 by singer-songwriter Harry Chapin and DJ Bill Aries, the global nonprofit was built on the belief that hunger is a completely solvable problem. Yet, as Jen Chapin, Harry's daughter and a WhyHunger board member noted during the Chapin Awards Gala, there's pride and shame in equal measure. And still being in service half a century later, WhyHunger began as a grassroots effort leveraging music industry connections to fund community-based groups tackling economic and food security. Today, it works with more than 8,000 partners across approximately 30 countries, even as food insecurity persists in the U.S., where the USDA reports over 47 million people, including nearly 14 million children, struggled with reliable access to food in 2023. During the gala, Grammy winners Pat Benatar and Neil Giraldo were honored with the ASCAP Harry Chapin Humanitarian Award. Benatar reflected, "Music brings so many people together, it's just always a good start." While Giraldo added, "If we can help in any way, that's what we're trying to do." Their support spanning 3 decades reinforces WhyHunger's core message. Ending hunger requires communal effort and visibility. That night alone, the gala raised over $125,000 to deepen WhyHunger's work in the U.S. and 24 other nations. Funds will support multifaceted programs from training local farmers and advancing indigenous food sovereignty to connecting families with federal assistance and advocating for food worker rights. The event also highlighted a strategic shift in how philanthropic efforts now approach hunger. No longer seen as a mere act of charity, but one deeply connected with racial equity, climate resilience, and systems-level changes. As Debbie De Paola, WhyHunger Senior Communications Director, explained, the sector's understanding of hunger has evolved, recognizing its roots in broader injustices. With its tight-knit staff purposely kept lean to remain agile, WhyHunger builds local capacity without bureaucratic overreach, according to Jen Chapin. Their deep partnerships are bolstered by major backers like Cindy and Tom Secunda, who have donated over $8 million since 2020. As Chapin emphasized, addressing hunger goes well beyond feeding people. You have to also create the social movement so that there is a food system that enables that farmer to get a fair price, she said, a powerful reminder that enduring change requires structural transformation. President Trump's recent executive order has set off a major shift in civil rights enforcement, one that could dramatically reshape how employment discrimination is handled in America. At the center of this controversy, a high-profile discrimination lawsuit against Sheetz, a convenience store chain with more than 700 locations across 6 states and over 20,000 employees. Filed in April of 2024, the lawsuit stemmed from the 8-year investigation by the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, known as the EEOC, which found that Sheetz' blanket policy of rejecting job applicants who failed a criminal background check disproportionately affected Black, Native American, and multiracial candidates. The EEOC reported that 14.5% of Black applicants, 13% of Native Americans, and 13.5% of multiracial applicants were denied employment, compared to only 8% of white applicants. That case now stands on uncertain ground, with President Trump's executive order issued on April 23rd, directing federal agencies to eliminate the use of disparate impact liability to the maximum degree possible. The EEOC has filed to dismiss the Sheetz suit in federal court in Pennsylvania. This legal doctrine, disparate impact, long established under Title VII, was codified by Congress in 1991 and addresses seemingly neutral policies that disproportionately harm protected groups. The administration's rationale, as Harmie K. Dillon, Assistant U.S. Attorney General for Civil Rights, put it, the focus should be on individual discrimination cases, more factually sound, less susceptible to manipulation, and more closely hews to the original intent, a civil rights law. Yet civil rights advocates counter that this rollback will weaken vital protections. One of the affected individuals, Kenny Miller, a Black applicant who lost out on a ship supervisor due to a felony conviction, is actively seeking to intervene and pursue a class action lawsuit. Estimates suggest thousands more could be impacted, according to the plaintiff's attorney. The stakes are high. Removing disparate impact liability may shield companies from challenges over job policies that inadvertently discriminate, but it could also reduce the incentives to address systematic barriers. EEOC Acting Chair Andrea Lucas has confirmed the agency will deprioritize such cases going forward. Meanwhile, former EEOC Chair Jenny Yang warns that this shift might discourage companies from proactively auditing hiring practices, though she and others emphasize that the law itself hasn't changed. As this case unfolds in federal court, the results will not only affect Sheetz, it could reshape civil rights enforcement nationwide. The outcome may define whether Title VII remains a robust shield against systematic discrimination or is limited to overt intentional bias. And we've made it to our final story. In South Omaha, early Tuesday morning, federal immigration agents conducted what was described as Nebraska's largest workplace enforcement action under the Trump administration. At Glen Valley Foods, a meat production plant, agents arrested between 70 to 80 workers, more than half of its approximately 140-person staff, leaving operations running at just 30% capacity. Plant owners were taken aback. President and CEO Gary Rower emphasized that the company had followed federal regulations using E-Verify to confirm employment eligibility for years. He said, "I was very upset because we were told to use E-Verified and we E-Verified all these years, so I was shocked," and added, "This is your system run by your government and you're rating me because your system is broken. ICE agents reportedly presented a warrant listing 97 workers flagged for fraudulent documentation, describing E-Verify as broken and flawed. One ICE spokesperson confirmed that this was part of a broader criminal investigation into large-scale employment of aliens without authorization. The human impact was immediate. In buses with darkened windows, around 70 individuals, some with hands zip-tied, were escorted away. Inside the plant, employees were split into groups based on documentation status. Workers reported hearing agents shouting "Homeland Security" as the raid unfolded. The operation sparked swift community backlash. Hundreds assembled at a spontaneous Omaha stand with immigrants rally chanting "No fear, no hate, no ICE in our state," as protesters threw rocks and attempted to block ICE vehicles. Local pastor Roger Garcia said, "These were individuals that were literally at work trying to provide for their families, people contributing to our local economy." Local officials also weighed in. Major John Ewing reaffirmed that the city's support for public safety over immigration enforcement, stating that Omaha police would not take part in checking legal status. Douglas County Commissioner Roger Garcia warned that the raid had sent the neighborhood into a state of fear. Businesses closed, campuses shuttered, and community anxiety skyrocketed. The broader meatpacking industry now hangs in the balance. With more than half of U.S. meatpacking workers being immigrants, analysts say the sector is highly vulnerable to such enforcement actions. At Glen Valley, remaining staff reported being fearful of traumatized, citing a steep dropout in output, with production plummeting to a mere 20% of normal levels. Given current low cattle herd levels, the smallest in 70 years, this kind of disruption could trigger further shortages and price hikes. This episode of SNEED-CAST Industry Update is proudly brought to you by our SNEED Freedom portable handheld printer. Designed for large character printing on the go, this powerful tool delivers 1-inch tall codes on virtually any surface. With the ability to print 1 to 8 lines of text and customizable print heights from 1mm to 25.4mm, it offers flexibility without compromise. Plus, its lightweight design and up to 7 hours of battery life make it the perfect solution for mobility and efficiency in your production line. Like always, stay tuned for our next episode of SNEED-CAST Industry Update, and make sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell down below to stay up to date with all of our great content, and let us know what topics you'd like to see us talk about here on the show. We look forward to hearing from you all. Bye, everyone.